I think you caught the tail end there of my conversation with the Defence Secretary. I did try and ask him multiple times whether the UK government supports what's going on, or the Trump administration effort in Iran. I don't think I sort of got very far. I'm not the wiser, really, on what the UK government thinks about it, beyond the fact that it's happening. Do you support it?
We do, and we think the government and the Prime Minister have been utterly gutless and cowardly in sitting on the fence. The Prime Minister's statement yesterday, all he really wanted to do was distance himself from the actions of Israel and the US. This is a once-in-a-50-year historic moment, and everybody has been appalled by this abhorrent regime. And President Trump is taking the difficult, but we believe correct decision to give the Persian people an opportunity to get their country back. And we should be supporting that. I think it is clear that the Prime Minister has denied access to UK bases and Diego Garcia. And that will have significantly damaged the trust and confidence from our most important allies, the United States, in whether or not they can trust the UK on the big decisions, the big moments when the chips, when the chips count, when the chips might be up and they might be down.
Do you think we should be actively supporting the Americans in an offensive capacity?
I think that I'm absolutely clear. Iran is not only an imminent threat, they are a permanent threat, this regime, to the UK. The Prime Minister admitted some 20 individual incidents against people in the UK in the last 12 to 18 months. We know that the Iranian regime, through their proxies like Hamas and the Houthis, have attacked British interests, attacked British citizens. We know they've been involved in cyber attacks. We know that they've essentially fomented the Islamist ideology, the deep anti-Semitism that has grown in the UK. The Iranian regime is behind all of this. They are a clear and present danger to the interests of the UK. And we should be supporting the US. I know that Canada supported the US. Australia have supported the US, and yet we've shown this Labour government has shown basically to be cowardly. In fact, some of them, senior MPs like Emily Thornberry, calling it illegal. I mean, it's just extraordinary.
Well, I was going to say, just on the question of the legality, is it that you think it is legal, or that we shouldn't care if it's legal or not?
My view is clear. The Iranian regime is a permanent threat to the UK and our interests, and as such, we have to do what is right in order to protect it. And frankly, enough is enough. That's what the President of the US has concluded.
That is the logic, of course, that offensive regimes use around the world for doing what they want to do.
Our allies, our democratic allies in the Middle East, Israel, the Iranian regime wants to wipe them off the map. And not unsurprisingly, they have defended themselves. And actually, the best form of offence is to attack to ensure that they cannot have nuclear capability, they cannot have ballistic missile capability, or any other military capability. So you think you agree
with Trump that the Iranians should rise up against their government?
This is their moment, and look, there will be bumps in the road. No one's saying this is easy. Of course it's difficult. That's the nature of life and geopolitics. But, sometimes actually leadership is about taking courageous, big, important, once-in-a-generation decisions. And this is what this is. This is a generational moment to, hopefully, for this tyrannical regime to be removed and for more peace and stability to permeate across the whole of the Middle East and beyond.
So therefore, given that, as you say, it's a once-in-a-generation opportunity, the President is calling for, the people there, it will be very risky for them, clearly. They will be risking life and limb to take up arms or who knows what against their own government, which is armed to the teeth and has been embedded in that country for half a century. Given that, therefore, if they attempt that and it goes wrong and people have to flee, would we welcome those refugees to our shores? Would you think we should?
I think from everything I'm hearing, actually, the likelihood is that Iranian dissidents will want to go back to Iran to help Iran.
But sure, but if the revolution goes wrong...
All of that, in a sense, is to look at over the coming months. What we must hope and give support is for the Persian people, the Iranian peace-loving people, hard-working people, to give them the maximum opportunity to get their country back.
But Iran, I just only mentioned it because we already have a reasonable flow of refugees from Iran. Iran, in fact, was the third most common nationality of refugees on small boats in 2025.
But the issue is whether or not...
Where was your support for those Iranians in small boats?
Because our deep concern is that actually some of those have links to the regime looking to spread anti-Semitism
and
Islamist Islamist ideology. Yes, within Iran, there are those who are part of the regime who are very bad people, and there are those who are good people, and we should be supporting the good people. And you've just got to have the courage to tell it as it is.
And should we support them if, as I say, if this revolution which you're backing goes wrong? You would welcome them if they appear on small boats.
Let's back it to go right. That is what we've got to be totally focused on.
As you say, there are bumps in the road. So
there will be bumps in the road, and you keep supporting good people. That's what you do.
Well, Nigel Farage, of course, he's changed his tune on Iran, hasn't he, over the course of the last decade, quite substantially. He used to say almost every other country where the West has intervened or implied support for regime change, such as Libya, Syria and Iraq, the situation has been made worse, got better. In 2013, he said, a more intelligent approach would have been to love bomb Iran. What's changed?
Well, essentially, the issue with Iran is we've seen this regime get worse and worse and worse. You've seen the actions of...
Pretty bad in 2013.
And it's got far, far worse. I mean, killing tens of thousands of people. And in a sense, look, people who say we should need to get round a table, all very lovey-dovey and nicey-nicey, but actually that has been tried.
We should love bomb them.
But well,
his words.
In a sense, actually, that's what the president of the US is doing by love bombing the good Persian people and trying to get rid of the regime. But look, people have tried for a decade or so, negotiations, patently gone nowhere. The Iranian regime have taken us as naive fools whilst they've been building up their nuclear capability, their long-range ballistic missile capability, and eventually you have to say, enough is enough.
He said, I do not support acts of aggression, even from countries that feel their existence is threatened, i.e. Israel. I'd go for non-intervention. I mean, isn't the truth that basically Obama was president then and Farage didn't like him, but Trump's president now, Farage likes him, so he just backs him accordingly?
No, the truth is you have to deal with the situations as they confront you, and the Iranian regime has got worse and worse, and eventually you have to say, this is a permanent, clear and present threat to ourselves and our Western allies, including Israel.
Just on Gorton, the by-election, a good performance. I mean, you came second, obviously improved the vote share quite significantly.
In line with our national poll?
Indeed so. So very creditable. But if you were the coming force you tell us you are, wouldn't you have done better still?
Oh, of course, we'd all like to have won it, but this was always going to be a difficult seat for us, given that it was one of the safest Labour seats across the country.
So it was Runcorn, but you won that.
Yes, and in a sense, that was a two-horse race. This was a three-horse race against the Greens and against Labour. But I'm delighted to have beaten Labour, delighted to have matched our national poll rating, give or take, in as I say, a very challenging seat for us. But lots of lessons learned, making great progress. New polls out today. I think we've got a 12% lead, and onwards and upwards. And there are some other important lessons that came out of it. The independent observers expressing their deep concern about family voting, the process where two people go into the same booth and essentially one tells the other how to vote. We're not saying that, but we're just saying, we want our democracy to be utterly trustworthy, and serious concerns about breaches of electoral law and family voting in that sense is illegal and should have been stopped, but wasn't stopped.
And and of course those investigations should take place. But your candidate in that seat, Matthew Goodwin, said that the sole reason he lost was sectarianism. Do you agree with that?
Oh, there was without question. I mean, the fact that you had election leaflets and videos by the Green Party in Urdu, I don't think that should be legal. I think it should be illegal to produce election material
but they want Muslim
in a foreign language. There was a bubble coming out of my face in Urdu. I have no idea what they were saying.
Don't you want Muslim votes?
We want all votes, of course, but what they played on was sectarianism.
Why is it sectarian?
Because they were seeking division and hate, saying things in a different language about us. Well, and frankly, I just think that is irresponsible. And
all parties, the parties have long histories of all parties of appealing to particular religious communities or minorities and saying we'll represent you best. What's wrong with that? That's not sectarian.
Actually, we try to avoid religion in UK politics, and generally, whilst it's been difficult in Northern Ireland, generally for decades and decades, it served us pretty well.
And what essentially
Party used to appeal to essentially
Catholic
the Green Party,
Conservative Party appealed to Jewish votes in recent elections.
The Green Party is fomenting anti-Semitism. And they are targeting.
Where?
They are fomenting anti-Semitism in much of what they do. You've got yesterday the deputy leader of the Green Party at the pro-Iranian regime demonstration here in London.
I know that Nigel Farage has said in the Mail on Sunday that What happened in Gorton, he said, in which the Green Party emerged victorious, was the most glaring example yet of what happens if we're not careful about the impact of mass immigration and legitimacy of those who can vote in our elections. Reform won among those British-born. He then cites the fact that there are several wards in the constituency where more than 20% of people were born abroad. They're British citizens. Of course they can vote. What's wrong with that?
No, because actually it turns out many of them are not British citizens.
Well, then they
actually,
can't vote.
They are Commonwealth citizens who can vote. This was the thing we've discovered. There are thousands of people in that constituency, Commonwealth citizens who are not British citizens, who are allowed to vote. We're not allowed to vote in Pakistan elections. Why should Pakistan citizens?
But that's a long-standing Commonwealth tradition.
And the point about
Britain.
continuous improvement is you make progress when you learn lessons for something that isn't working.
Some of them will be foreign-born and British citizens. And why does your party... Well, that's not what he's saying in that piece. He's just talking about foreign-born.
Lewis, read it again. What we're saying is people who are non-British citizens should not be able to vote in British elections. And what you're seeing is non-British citizens, Commonwealth citizens, voting based on overseas issues as opposed to issues affecting us here in the UK.
Isn't it true, Richard Tice, that Muslim voters hear
of which we have many alongside Sikh voters?
Well, why didn't more of them vote for you?
People of
maybe it's because they constantly hear people from your party talking about the problems of Islamism and so on, and maybe they just decide they don't like us and we don't like them.
Maybe no one wants Islamist ideology in the United Kingdom, and we have to stand up against it. And what our fear is that the Green Party is fomenting anti-Semitism. They are fomenting
Muslim voters just like
extremism, Islamist ideology, which is why the deputy leader of the Green Party was at a pro-Iranian regime demonstration here in central London.
Would you describe yourself as a strong friend of Israel, for example?
Yes,
would you campaign on that? Well, would you campaign on that in a seat which was heavily Jewish? Is that sectarian?
No, I campaign heavily in Gorton and Denton.
Sure.
And we will have secured votes from people of all religions and no religions.
I just don't understand why it's sectarian what the Green Party is doing. They're just appealing to Muslim voters. What's wrong with that?
They specifically targeted and they specifically used the issue of Gaza, which is an international issue,
as opposed to focusing on... But you just said that you would use the issue of Israel, for example, in campaigning. What's the difference?
No, I didn't say that. I said I support Israel. That's the point.
But you wouldn't use it when campaigning in Jewish seats,
I don't go into a British election in a constituency and campaign on Israeli issues. That's completely different. That's what the Green Party did with Gaza, and they've done it consistently, and they are fomenting division when actually what we want is to bring people together, and that's what Reform's doing. That's why we're leading in the national polls.
Just finally, what did you make of your new Shadow Chancellor, Robert Jenrick, sending off his first economic speech to George Osborne, saying, I think you'll approve of that?
Oh, isn't it great that many people can approve of our economic policies
George Osborne?
that will bring stability?
Do you seek George Osborne's approval for your party's policies?
It's interesting. I actually saw George Osborne the other week, and I said the thing that he didn't make enough of was his policy of reducing corporation tax from 28% down to 19% over a period of time, heading towards 17%. So you can disagree with someone on many, many things, but actually credit where credit's due. And what Robert's doing is confirming that we will look after people's money and we will help people and look after taxes and spend money more wisely than any other party. And that, as I say, Lewis, is why we're leading in the national polls.
You don't think that George Osborne, you always say your party says that Britain's broken. You don't think George Osborne had a fair bit to do with breaking it?
George Osborne had a lot to do with breaking it, but they got many things wrong. They got many things wrong, but the one thing they got right was a direction of travel of reducing corporation tax down towards 19%, heading towards 17%, and then the Tories reversed course.